Confronting reality, Winter stood before the glowing nexus, the golden energy crackling with immense power. Eldritch stood beside him, his face etched with curiosity and concern. "So what's next?" Eldritch asked, his voice echoing in the vast emptiness of the Shadow Realm. Winter's eyes remained fixed on the nexus. "This has all been part of a greater plan," he began. "From reshaping reality, dying at the hands of the Alpha, to escaping from being trapped in the form of Valen, every step was necessary." Eldritch nodded, urging Winter to continue. "Reality has a cycle, an unyielding force that maintains balance. When I reshaped reality, I became an anomaly. My presence continuously threatened to disrupt the cycle. That's why I had to execute the plan to have the Alpha end me, to temporarily reset the balance." "But why can't you just return now?" Eldritch inquired. Winter sighed. "Because reality will not allow me to simply show up again. It would continue the cycle of chaos and imbalance. The only way for me to step back into reality and join Mara is to confront reality itself, to convince it that my presence will end the cycle rather than perpetuate it." Eldritch frowned. "And how do you plan to do that?" "We need to plan meticulously," Winter explained. "Confronting reality is no small feat. It requires not just power, but also understanding and persuasion. We must show reality that the cycle of destruction and rebirth can end with my return, that a new balance can be achieved." As Winter and Eldritch delved into the complexities of facing reality itself, another scene unfolded within the Shadow Realm. Eldur sat alone in a shadowy prison, a realm that had confined him for eternity, or at least until reality allowed Winter to reunite with Mara in the real world. The darkness around him was suffocating, a constant reminder of his failures. Memories of his past haunted him. He recalled the night his family was killed when he was just a boy, the faces of his close friends lost in countless battles, the agonizing pain of losing his wife and child during childbirth. Every loss, every failure had shaped him into the being he was now. Now in the Shadow Realm and within the saga of Crimson Dawn, Eldur had faced his greatest defeat. All his ambitions, his power, had led him to this prison of shadows. All he wanted now was release, an end to the torment. Back at the Nexus, Winter placed a hand on Eldritch's shoulder. "This is the final phase, old friend. We must prepare to face reality and prove that the cycle can end." Eldritch nodded, determination and resolve etched on his face. "Let's make it happen, Winter. For Mara, for all of us." As they turned back to the Nexus, the path ahead was uncertain, but their resolve was unwavering. The journey to confront reality and break the cycle had begun. Winter gazed deep into the Nexus, the swirling golden energy reflecting in his eyes. He turned to Eldritch, his voice heavy with the gravity of their mission. "If this fails, you will be stuck here, along with everyone else, for eternity," Winter said. "If I should fail, look out for the Alpha for me. And Eldur, he's a power-hungry, scheming parasite, but none of this would have been possible without him. He has a deep power none of you see, possibly more powerful than you, Eldritch." Eldritch nodded, absorbing the weight of Winter's words. With a final glance at his old friend, Winter stepped into the Nexus. The golden energy consumed him, and he was propelled through a vast, glowing universe, twisting and turning through what seemed like an infinite amount of time. With a sudden crash, Winter landed on the ground, the impact jarring him back to his senses. He looked around and found himself in a strange world, a jungle teeming with unfamiliar sounds. Birds chirped in melodies he had never heard, and strange creatures moved through the dense foliage. From a golden light stepped another Winter, identical in appearance. Except for the mask he wore, Winter stared at his doppelganger, understanding who stood before him. "What should I call you, Reality?" Winter asked. "That will suffice," Reality replied, his voice echoing with a surreal resonance. "You cannot return," Reality continued. "To do so will spell doom on a perpetual cycle. You are an anomaly that will always alter reality itself." Winter took a deep breath, preparing to make his case. "It does not have to be this way," he began. "I seek a simple life with Mara, free from the cycle of resets. The only reason reality was put on the path of an infinite cycle was due to the supernatural gaining too much power. A world can exist where this does not happen. In fact, a world must exist where this does not happen, and the only one capable of ensuring this is me." Reality listened, its expression inscrutable behind the mask. Winter continued, explaining how he could maintain the balance and prevent the supernatural from overpowering the natural world. He spoke of his desire to live peacefully, to safeguard reality from the chaos that had plagued it. After a long silence, Reality spoke. "Your words carry weight, Winter, but words alone are not enough. To prove your intentions and capability, you must first pass a test." Winter nodded, his resolve unwavering. "What is the test?" he asked. "You will face a challenge that embodies the very essence of reality's balance," Reality replied. "Succeed, and you will be allowed to return. Fail, and you will remain here, an anomaly forever confined." Winter steeled himself, ready to face whatever challenge lay ahead. The fate of his existence and the balance of reality itself hung in the balance. The test would determine whether he could truly break the cycle and return to the life he longed for with Mara. The test unveiled. Reality stood before Winter, the golden nexus pulsing with energy behind him. "Your test is simple in its complexity," Reality began. "You must conquer this realm. It is a place without technology. The people here are simple tribes with simple ways. They do not possess magic, firepower, or technology. The animals are vicious and hungry. Your test is to conquer and rule this place using nothing but your mind. There is no way to build your gadgets here." Winter's eyes scanned the dense jungle around him. He could hear the distant roars of unknown beasts and the rustle of leaves as something large moved just out of sight. "The tribes will want to kill you. The animals will want to eat you," Reality continued. "All you have is your mind against ferocity and instinct. Should you prevail, which is unlikely, you will have proven you can survive in a world without the temptation to interrupt reality or interfere with the supernatural order unless needed." Winter nodded, the weight of the challenge settling in. "I understand," he said. "I accept the test." Reality's form began to shimmer and fade. "Time here, as in the shadow realm, is meaningless," Reality said. 100 years here is a mere second in reality. Use your time wisely, Winter." With that, Reality vanished, leaving Winter alone in the heart of the jungle. As Reality disappeared, it stripped Winter of his mask and clothing, ensuring Winter would have to start with nothing. The sounds of the wild grew louder, more menacing, as if the very environment sensed the presence of a newcomer. Winter took a deep breath, his mind racing. He had survived countless battles, outwitted gods, and navigated through the intricacies of the supernatural, but now he faced a new kind of challenge, one that would test his intellect, patience, and survival instincts to their limits. His first task was to find shelter. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the jungle floor. Winter moved cautiously, his senses heightened. He spotted a rocky outcrop in the distance, a potential refuge from the dangers of the night. He made his way towards it, his eyes and ears alert for any signs of movement. As he reached the outcrop, Winter found a small cave, barely large enough to stand in. It would have to do for now. He gathered leaves and branches, creating a makeshift bed. The cave provided some protection, but he knew it was only a temporary solution. That night, as he lay in the dark, the sounds of the jungle closing in around him, Winter's mind worked tirelessly. He needed to understand this world, its people, and its creatures. He needed to find a way to survive and eventually conquer. The test had begun, and Winter was determined to succeed. Morning came, with the calls of unfamiliar birds and the rustling of leaves. Winter emerged from the cave, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. His journey to conquer this realm would be long and arduous, but he was resolved to see it through. With each step, he moved deeper into the jungle, his mind sharp, his will unyielding. The tribes and beasts of this land had yet to meet Winter, the man who had outwitted gods. And Winter, with nothing but his mind and his determination, was ready to face them all. The jungle's challenge. Winter woke with the first light of dawn, his mind already racing with plans. He needed weapons. More importantly, he needed to understand this world better. His first task was to create a makeshift spear. He found a sturdy branch and used a sharp stone to whittle one end into a point. Testing its balance, he felt a small sense of satisfaction, his first step towards survival. Next, he needed more than just a spear. He needed firepower, or at least something close to it. He thought back to his knowledge of basic chemistry, recalling the ingredients required to make a crude type of gunpowder: charcoal, sulfur, and saltpeter. Charcoal was easy enough. Burnt wood. Sulfur, he hoped, might be found near any volcanic activity or hot springs. Saltpeter, he could potentially find in Baguano or certain types of soil. As he scoured the jungle for these materials, his senses remained alert. The jungle was alive with dangers he couldn't see. Suddenly, a rustling in the underbrush caught his attention. He turned, spear at the ready, but nothing could have prepared him for the creature that emerged. It was a hybrid of a wolf and a big cat, a melding of two apex predators, muscular, sleek, and radiating danger. The creature lunged, and Winter barely had time to dodge. The battle was fierce. The creature was faster and stronger, but Winter had his wits. He used the terrain to his advantage, darting behind trees, using his spear to keep the beast at bay. Finally, with a calculated move, he lured the creature into a trap, forcing it to leap towards him. As it did, Winter thrust his spear with all his might, piercing its heart. Panting and covered in sweat, Winter looked at the fallen beast. It was a magnificent creature, but he had no time for sentimentality. He skinned the creature, using its pelt to create a cloak and hood. The animal's fur would provide warmth and camouflage. Draping the cloak around his shoulders, he felt a grim satisfaction. He was beginning to adapt. Now to find the people of this place, Winter muttered to himself, adjusting the hood. I know not if they even speak a language. But first, I need to find the final ingredients to finish the gunpowder compound. With renewed determination, Winter continued his search. He found a patch of ground that seemed rich in Baguano, perfect for saltpeter. He collected the substance, storing it in a makeshift pouch. Further on, he discovered a hot spring with sulfur deposits around its edges. Gathering the yellow crystals, he added them to his collection. Back at his makeshift camp, Winter set to work. Using a flat stone, he ground the charcoal, sulfur, and saltpeter together, careful to maintain the right proportions. The process was painstaking, but finally, he had a small amount of crude gunpowder. Testing it, he packed a tiny amount into a hollowed-out piece of wood, creating a rudimentary explosive. He lit a makeshift fuse and backed away. A moment later, the device exploded with a satisfying bang. Winter smiled grimly. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Armed with his spear, his cloak, and now his makeshift explosives, he felt more prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Standing at the edge of the jungle, he gazed into the distance. Somewhere out there were the people of this land. He would find them, learn their ways, and eventually he would conquer this realm. For Mara, for his friends, and for the reality he hoped to return to. Winter was ready to face whatever came next. Months had passed since Winter first arrived in this strange land. He had explored vast regions, mapped huge parts of the territory, and catalogued numerous strange creatures. Every day was a new challenge, but it was a challenge he relished. He had gathered resources and even set up a more permanent hideout, complete with rudimentary defenses and a small stockpile of his crude explosives. One day, while scouting a new area, Winter discovered a tribe of people. These were not ordinary people, but an ancient hunter-gatherer species. Fascinated, Winter did not approach them immediately. Instead, he chose to observe them from a distance. Camouflaged from view, he watched their daily routines, their hunting techniques, and their social structure. One particular evening, Winter noticed the tribe gathering for some kind of ritual. They bound a man and placed him into a cage. Curious, Winter continued to watch. As the sun set and the full moon rose high in the sky, the man in the cage began to contort and cry out in agony. Winter's eyes widened in shock and realization. The man was transforming, shifting into the form of a werewolf. "Oh, great," Winter muttered to himself. "I am helpless against a lichen." He knew he needed a weapon that could counter such a creature. He remembered the volcanic area he had explored earlier, where he had gathered materials for his gunpowder. Silver could sometimes be found near volcanic regions, often in the form of argentite or native silver. Winter thought about the process required to turn raw silver ore into a usable form. He would need to locate argentite, a silver sulfide mineral. Once found, he would need to smelt it to extract the silver. The process involved heating the ore to high temperatures to separate the silver from sulfur and other impurities. Determined, Winter returned to the volcanic area. He spent days meticulously searching for argentite. When he finally found a small vein of the precious ore, he carefully extracted it and carried it back to his hideout. There, he constructed a makeshift smelting furnace, using stones and clay. Using charcoal from his previous expeditions, he created a hot enough fire to smelt the ore. After several long and exhausting attempts, Winter succeeded in extracting small amounts of silver. He fashioned the silver into crude arrowheads and spear tips, knowing they would be his best defense against a werewolf. As he worked, Winter couldn't help but smile. Despite the dangers, he found himself enjoying the challenge. The process of problem solving and adapting to this new world was invigorating. Another thought crossed Winter's mind. If there are lichen, he mused, maybe there are elders too. I should prepare for everything. With that in mind, Winter continued to forge silver weapons, preparing himself for whatever this land might throw at him. He knew the test set by reality was far from over, but he was ready to face it, head on. Winter's planning was meticulous. He left nothing to chance, considering every possible detail. One critical aspect he recognized was his defenselessness against elders. There was no way to recreate his UV and infrared light defenses in this primitive world. He needed a different strategy. He concluded that his best move on the board would be to control the lichen and understand the people of the tribe. With this in mind, Winter set out for the village. He walked into the small tribal settlement, brazen and uncaring, a calculated risk. The tribal people watched him with wary eyes as he strolled past them. The language was unknown to Winter, but his mind worked like a supercomputer, analyzing the sounds and identifying them with familiar sayings and objects. His extreme level of cognitive function allowed him to decipher their language with astonishing speed. By the time he reached the center of the village, Winter had deciphered several common words. Each sound from the natives gave him more of the vocabulary he needed. "I come as a friend," he said, his pronunciation rough but understandable. At that moment, several tribal warriors ran towards Winter, spears in hand. Winter needed their full attention. He rubbed together a newly made glove and a flint-type bracelet on his other arm, lighting a small device. A small rocket shot up into the sky from his glove, then exploded with a deafening bang. He lit a second fuse, and a firework shot from his glove into the air, bursting into a brilliant display. The tribal warriors stopped, shocked. They had never seen anything like this before. "I am a friend," Winter repeated. "I am here to help." The chief emerged from his hut, adorned in elaborate tribal attire. Winter instantly recognized the chief's status and bowed before him, showing respect. His mind continued analyzing the language, piecing together phrases and sentences. He spoke to the chief, explaining he was a friend and wanted to help their village. The chief listened intently, his expression unreadable. He spoke a few words to his warriors, who lowered their spears but remained cautious. Winter continued, "I want to understand your ways and offer my help in return." The chief nodded slowly, his eyes studying Winter. He responded in their language, "Why should we trust you, stranger?" Winter replied, "Because I have faced many dangers and come with knowledge and skills that can aid your people. I seek no harm, only understanding and cooperation." The chief considered this, then gestured for Winter to follow him. They walked to a large hut where the elders of the tribe gathered. Winter's mind raced, absorbing every word and gesture. He needed to gain their trust and find a way to control the lichen. This was his only chance to survive and succeed in this world. Inside the hut, the chief introduced Winter to the elders, and the real negotiation began. Winter knew this was just the beginning, but he felt a spark of hope. He had made contact, and now he needed to prove himself. The survival of both his mission and himself depended on it. Winter sat and spoke with the leaders of the tribe, explaining that he was a traveler from a faraway land seeking out elders, or vampires, that he must slay. The tribal leaders looked at him with mistrusting eyes. Anticipating their response, Winter said, "These vampires hurt my family and people. I am here to slay them." He took another gamble, saying, "I also am the father of the wolfman, the lichen. I understand them, and in my land, the lichens are our friends and allies." A young warrior rose up angrily, saying, "I do not trust this one. He wishes to hurt my brother, not help him." Winter replied, "I understand your mistrust, but what if I spoke the truth? What if I could truly help your brother? Would it not be right for a brother to do everything he can for his blood? My name is Winter. I possess the power to take from you anything I wish. You would not be able to stop me. Why then do I speak of friendship when a lie serves no purpose?" One of the tribe leaders, named Tarek, spoke up. "We are the tribe of the moon's embrace. We have been at war with the tribe of the night's shadow, who are aided by the ones you call elders. They use them to attack our people. We are defenseless until the full moon, when our brothers are both a curse and a savior." Winter's mind calculated every possible scenario. He realized that he would not be able to defeat the elders alone, and if he defeated the lichen, there would be nothing to stop the elders. He needed to conquer these people, not defeat them, and he needed to find a way to unite them against a common enemy. The lichen and elders working together seemed impossible, but Winter's strategic mind sought the best move on the board. "Take me to see your brother who is cursed," Winter said. The leaders hesitated, but Tarek nodded, signaling to the others. They led Winter through the village to a reinforced hut at the edge of the settlement. Inside, a man was chained to the wall, his eyes glowing with a wild, feral intensity. His body was muscular and covered in scars, a testament to his battles against the transformation. "This is my brother, Arik," Tarek said. "He becomes the Wolfman every full moon. He has saved us many times, but we fear him as much as we rely on him." Winter approached Arik cautiously. "Arik, I am Winter. I understand your pain and your power. I am here to help you control your curse, to turn it into a blessing for your people." Arik growled, his eyes narrowing. "Why should I trust you?" "Because I have faced the same struggles. In my land, Lycans are our friends and allies. We have learned to control the curse and use it for good. I can teach you the same." Arik's expression softened slightly. "And what do you want in return?" "I seek to destroy the elders who threaten your people. If you help me, we can defeat them together. You can be a hero to your tribe, not a curse." Arik looked at Tarek, who nodded slowly. "If you can truly help my brother, you will have our support." Winter smiled. "Then let us begin. Show me the way to the tribe of the Night's Shadow, and together we will end this war and free your people from their curse." The leaders of the tribe of the Moon's Embrace exchanged glances, hope flickering in their eyes for the first time in many moons. They led Winter out of the hut, their hearts filled with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Winter knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but he was ready. The pieces were falling into place, and he was determined to see his plan through to the end. Winter spoke to Arik. "Arik, in my land, if a lichen bites a man, that man becomes a lichen. Is this true here?" Arik nodded. "Yes, it is true." "Excellent," said Winter. "The moon is full in just a few days. This will be when we initiate our plan. For now, let us build a defense against the elders." Using his knowledge of elders and their weaknesses, Winter guided the tribe to build traps that would set off small fireworks if a trespasser came that way. They also built fires around the perimeter, with a guard at each one holding a concoction Winter had devised. When thrown into the fire, this mixture would burn so bright that no shadows could exist. Winter explained the best ways to hurt the elders and how they could be driven back. With this, the tribe of the Moon's Embrace and Winter lay in wait for any attack from the elders of the opposing tribe. The night was tense, with the tribe members on high alert. The full moon was just days away, and they knew an attack could come at any moment. As the moon rose higher, two elders emerged from the shadows, silently approaching the camp. Their eyes glowed with an unholy light as they moved closer, confident in their superiority. But as they approached, they set off one of Winter's firework alarms. The sudden explosion of light and sound caught them off guard, and they hesitated. "Now!" Winter shouted. The guards around the perimeter threw the concoction into the fires. The bright burning light flared up, illuminating the entire area with a searing brightness that left no room for shadows. The elders screamed in pain, their forms flickering as the light burned them. The warriors, armed with long spear-like objects tipped with silver, thrust at the elders' hearts. The elders, caught off guard and in agony from the light, were unable to defend themselves. The silver-tipped spears found their marks, and the elders screeched in pain, quickly retreating into the darkness from whence they came. This was a defeat they had never known at the hands of humans before. As the elders retreated, the tribe of the Moon's Embrace celebrated. The village erupted in cheers and chants, hailing Winter as a savior. They had never believed it possible to drive back the elders, but now, with Winter's guidance, they had achieved the impossible. Winter stood at the center of the celebration, a small smile on his face. He knew this was only the beginning. The real test would come with the full moon, but for now, he had won their trust and admiration. He had shown them a glimpse of what was possible, and together, they would be ready for whatever came next. "Tonight, we celebrate," Winter said, raising his voice above the crowd. "But tomorrow, we prepare for the full moon. We will turn your brother's curse into our greatest weapon. Together, we will defeat the elders and ensure the safety of your tribe." The tribe members cheered louder, their spirits lifted by Winter's words. They believed in him, and with his leadership, they felt invincible. Winter knew that the battle was far from over, but he also knew that he had found a way to unite the tribe and turn their greatest fear into their greatest strength. And with the full moon approaching, he was ready to execute his plan and take the next step in his journey. Speaking with the chief the next day, the chief asked Winter to name a reward, as it was a custom to reward the brave in their tribe. Winter spoke. "Yes, I would like to borrow many workers to come with me to the volcanic area. We need to mine silver and lots of it." The chief replied, "For weapons." "No," Winter said, "for my reward." After a long day collecting the materials to smelt more silver, Winter said, "That's enough." He took all the materials to his makeshift smelting oven. The villagers could hear hammering and banging. As darkness fell, the village still saw sparks coming from where Winter was working with the materials. When he was done, he emerged from his cave, his face now covered by a crude silver mask. He spoke with authority. "The moon will be full tonight. Take me to Arik. It is time." They arrived just as the moon rose in the sky. Arik was already writhing in pain and agony. Before long, he was fully transformed into the wolf. Bound and caged, Arik was trapped. Winter approached the cage, the glint of his silver mask catching the moonlight. "I put my arm in there for him to bite me," Winter said, his voice steady. "When he does, pull me out fast. I do not want my arm taken off." Tarik looked on, confused and concerned. "No, if you turn, you will kill us." "No," Winter said. "I understand the lichen. I understand the brain chemistry and why you transform. Everything is science. I will control the beast within me. I have seen it done. I can do it." He passed Tarik his silver-tipped spear. "If I should become crazed, simply stab me with this. It will do the job." Winter prepared to place his arm into the cage. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the pain and the transformation to come. The villagers watched in stunned silence, unsure if Winter's plan was madness or genius. Slowly, Winter extended his arm through the bars of the cage. The werewolf Arik snarled, his eyes wild and feral. In a swift motion, Arik's jaws clamped down on Winter's arm, the pain searing through his body. Winter gritted his teeth, giving the signal to pull him out. The villagers acted quickly, yanking Winter's arm free from the cage, just as the bite marks began to fester. Winter fell to the ground, his body convulsing as the transformation took hold. His mind raced, trying to hold on to his humanity, focusing on every detail he knew about the lycanthropic condition. The villagers, on edge, gripped their weapons tightly, ready to act if Winter lost control. Minutes felt like hours as Winter fought the beast within. His muscles contorted, his bones cracked and reshaped. He let out a primal roar, but then, just as suddenly, it stopped. Winter stood up, his eyes still human, his mind still his own. "I told you," he said, panting heavily. "I can control it." The villagers let out a collective sigh of relief, their admiration for Winter growing even more. He had done what seemed impossible, proving once again that he was not just a man, but something far more extraordinary. "Now," Winter said, his voice steady despite the ordeal he had just endured. "We will use this to our advantage. With the power of the lichen and the knowledge of the Elder's weaknesses, we will ensure this tribe's survival and prosperity." The villagers cheered, their faith in Winter solidified. The real test would come with the next full moon, but for now, they had hope. A hope that Winter would lead them to victory and a future free from the terror of the Elders. Winter began to unlock Arik's cage. "Stop, this is too much," said Tarik. "Arik is not like you." "I know," Winter replied as he unbound the fierce werewolf. Arik, ready to lunge at the tribespeople, was stopped short by a huge primal roar from Winter. The commanding, primitive howl forced Arik, even in his lichen form, to obey him. Winter was now the alpha. Arik stood next to Winter, a pack member following the command of its alpha. No longer able to speak, now fully transformed, Winter gave a deep growl, a command for Arik to follow. They leaped off into the darkness, in the direction of the tribe of the Night's Shadow. As he sped towards the opposing tribe, Winter felt the primal force coursing through him, his mind constantly battling to hold back the rage of the wolf. They arrived at the village. Winter howled. Arik joined him. The howls were ones of defiance and challenge. The two lichen stood in the village. The villagers ran in fear. 4 elders emerged from the shadows. One spoke, the leader, Eldrick. "I take it you can understand me, or you would be savage in this village already." Winter nodded. Eldrick continued, "And of course, you have not torn us to shreds already." One of the other elders, Variel, spoke up. "Let's kill them already." Arik turned his head, his eyes aflame with primal rage. Winter held up a huge clawed hand. One clawed finger waved back and forth in a gesture of Winter pointed to the sky, at the moon, then left the 4 elders standing there. Winter motioned Arik to follow. They left, the elders confused, apart from Eldrick, who said, "I think he will be back again when the moon does not shine." Variel spoke up. "Good. Without the lichen form, we can kill him." Eldrick replied, "I'm not so sure. There is something strange about this one." Winter and Arik returned to the village of the Moon's Embrace. The tribespeople looked at Winter with a mix of awe and fear. Winter transformed back into his human form as the moon waned, his body exhausted but his mind sharp. "We must wait for the cycle of the moon to end," Winter told the chief. "We have shown them our strength. Now we must show them our cunning." The chief nodded, his trust in Winter growing stronger. The tribe began to prepare for the next phase of Winter's plan. Winter knew that the next confrontation with the elders would be critical. He needed to find a way to leverage the tribe's newfound confidence and the power of the lichen to secure a lasting victory over the elders. Days passed, and as the full moon cycle ended, Winter gathered the tribe. As they prepared, Winter couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was at play. He knew the elders were cunning and powerful, but he also knew that the bond he shared with the lichen and the trust he had built with the tribe were his greatest strengths. The night before the attack, Winter stood alone, looking up at the stars. "This has to work," he whispered to himself. "For Mara, for all of us." The next day, as the sun set and the tribe gathered for the assault, Winter felt a surge of determination. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, confident that his intellect, courage, and the loyalty of his newfound allies would see them through. As usual, everyone, except Winter, was confused about why Winter had decided to return on a night with no moon. Tarik, Arik, the chief, and the warriors all tried to tell him this was certain death. Winter nodded and spoke. "Do not fear, my friends. I know what I am doing. and I doubt I have the time to educate you on why it will work." That night, Winter set off for the tribe of the Night's Shadow. After some time he arrived, alone. The villagers watched him, his silver mask reflecting the fires from the camp. In the center of the village, the 4 elders stood. Eldrick greeted Winter. Eldrick spoke. "Have you come to challenge us in your man form?" Winter replied, "You seem to have some level of intelligence. You must understand that you can never defeat the tribe of the Moon's Embrace. You simply cannot kill a lichen. They also understand they can never defeat you, as on the nights of the moon, you can hide in shadow." A stalemate. Varel spoke. "I could simply kill you right now, so you could never become a lichen again." Winter removed his mask and spoke. "You could try, but that would be one less elder for you." With that, something unbelievable happened. Winter began to change into his lichen form. Varel backed off in fear. Then Winter transformed again into his human form and replaced his silver mask. "You see, I have the ability to control the flow of chemicals in my brain, the exact reaction needed to transform, normally brought on by the moon, but I am in full control of my cognitive and primal sections of my mind," Winter explained, his words brimming with so much intelligence that even the elders were in awe of his power. Winter spoke. "Now let's cut to the chase. What's it going to take to bring peace between your 2 tribes?" Varel spat. "Peace between lichen and elders? That's impossible." Winter replied, "Ha! One of my most trusted friends is an elder, and my son is a lichen, and they get on just fine." Eldrick, sensing the possibility of something greater, spoke. "We are at war with the other tribe because they refuse to share the lands and resources equally. They see us as parasites, but we only take what we need to survive. They believe we are the cause of their hardships, and so they hunt us, leaving us no choice but to fight back." Winter nodded, understanding the depth of the conflict. "Then perhaps a solution lies in cooperation. I propose a council where representatives from both tribes can discuss and negotiate terms of peace and cooperation. If we work together, we can ensure that both tribes have what they need to thrive." Varel scoffed. "And why should we trust you?" Winter replied, "Because I have nothing to gain from your conflict. I am here to help both tribes find a way to coexist. If I wanted to destroy you, I would have done it already." Eldrick, thoughtful, said, "Your words carry weight, Winter. If you can convince the tribe of the Moon's Embrace to come to the table, we will consider your proposal." Winter nodded. "I will speak with them and return with their answer." With that, Winter turned and left the village, his mind already working on how to bring the 2 tribes together. He knew it would not be easy, but he was determined to find a way to bring peace to this land. The chief of the tribe of the Moon's Embrace spat on the floor. "There is no way we will trust the elders. They are parasites. They feed off my people." Winter spoke calmly. "They do so in response to being denied the lands they wish to use. That cave area, I think it was their home, but your land sits on it. Plus, Arik is now in tune with the primal. He could destroy them if he chooses, but he also has the ability to calm his rage. He will now be a protector, not a curse, a champion for good in your tribe." Tarik rose up. "For this, I would stand by your side, Winter." Several others also stood, their trust in Winter strong. The chief looked around, his people's trust in Winter evident. After a long conversation, he finally agreed. That night, the elders, along with the chief and warriors from the tribe of the Night's Shadow, appeared at the edge of the village. The tribe of the Moon's Embrace met them. Standing face to face with tension thick in the air, Winter moved and stood between them. Winter began to speak, his voice strong and clear. I understand your mistrust and your anger. I understand the pain and suffering each of you has endured. But let me tell you about my loved ones. My closest and most trusted allies are lichens and elders. Even those elders who once sought to destroy me now respect me. Elders are born from pain, but it no longer needs to be this way. Lichens are born from rage, and this too can end. Arik will now be a champion, not a curse. The elders will know peace, but this can only be achieved through cooperation and trust. Winter paused, letting his words sink in. The alternative is an endless war where many will die, and peace and courage will never be known. His voice then changed, taking on a tone of stern authority. And there is also one more alternative. You will face the wrath of Winter. It is my duty to bring you together, and should any of you disrupt this duty, I will be most displeased. With that, Winter ignited more of his firework tricks. Flames shot from his hands, and an explosion erupted behind him, creating a dramatic display that left the tribes awestruck. The two tribes sat for many hours in discussion. Finally, an agreement was made. They would share the lands and resources, and the elders could visit the caves of their ancestors. They decided to select a leader to oversee the peace and ensure no one broke the treaty. They selected Winter, as he was an outsider, and would rule over both tribes as an overseer. Winter smiled, realizing he had conquered the two tribes with peace. He spoke to the elders, Tariq, Arik, and the chiefs. My work here is done. I will be watching you all to ensure you work together for peace. My rule cannot be questioned. Should anyone break this, I shall return with vengeance. From behind Winter, a golden portal of energy opened, and out stepped Reality. You have done the impossible, Reality said. This was not meant to be achieved, but you have done it. Reality bends to your will, Winter. You shall return to it. The Shadow Realm will cease to be, and its inhabitants will be returned to reality. The world will be as it was before. Reality trusts you to ensure no supernaturals, no gods, or even man will disrupt the balance of reality. Winter replied, You have my word. In the blink of an eye, Winter found himself back in his home. Mara stood there, tears welling up in her eyes as she saw him. They embraced tightly, the weight of years and unimaginable struggles finally lifting. I visited the Graham family, Mara said softly, only to find your mask instead of the Alpha. Winter smiled, a mix of relief and joy flooding his face. The Alpha. He's been with me in the Shadow Realm. He's always been there. Their reunion was heartfelt and tender, both of them holding on to each other as if afraid to let go. The years of separation melted away in that embrace. Suddenly, the Alpha of Winter bounded up to Winter, knocking him to the floor with a playful force. Winter laughed heartily, hugging the massive creature. The Alpha Prime strolled up next, brushing against Winter with a deep sense of loyalty and affection. We are now the guardians of reality, Winter explained to Mara. Should a threat arise, it is up to us to stop it from going too far. Meanwhile, Eldritch once again sat in his hidden location beneath London, plotting his next move. His targets were those who took from others, those who manipulated the system. A dark sense of justice filled his thoughts as he planned his next victims. Sarana moved through the dark streets of New Orleans, her heart feeling an empty void. She missed a connection to someone important, a shadow of longing that haunted her every step. Eldur, the once powerful and ambitious elder, had all but given up. His heart sank through defeat after defeat. He returned to his homeland, now modern Germany, and lay in the mud and rain at the location of his old home. It was the place where he had lost his wife and child, Collapsing, he begged for death to claim him, his spirit broken and his will shattered. All the while, reality watched. It kept a check on the world, ensuring there would never again be another Crimson Dawn. It was a silent guardian, ever vigilant, maintaining the balance that winter had fought so hard to restore. The end